Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. So I'm not actually gonna start reading this book today. It's gonna be tomorrow because I need to finish the tail end of another one. But tomorrow it's going to be a bit chaotic, so I wanted to film this intro today. But the book in question is The Paris Library by Janet Skeslien-Charles. So this is actually the pick for my book club, and it's one I suggested. I live in Paris, so this is a book I'm really interested in. I'm pretty much interested in any book that takes place here, but what makes this kind of extra special, I guess, is that it's based on the library that I actually go to, the American Library in Paris, and it's written on someone who used to work there. So all of this has me pretty excited to get into this. However, the genre of this is historical fiction, which usually isn't my thing. So I'm kind of curious how I'm gonna feel about this one. This is fairly long. I believe it's like 400 something pages. Yeah, it's just over 400 pages. It takes place during World War II, and there's also another timeline that takes place in modern times, I believe. I don't really know too much about it, so I think the easier route would be to just read the description together. Odile Souchet is obsessed with books and her new job at the American Library in Paris, with its thriving community of students, writers, and book lovers, is a dream come true. When war is declared, the library is determined to remain open, but then the Nazis invade Paris and everything changes. In occupied Paris, choices as black and white as the words on a page become a murky shade of gray. Choices that will put many on the wrong side of history, and the consequences of which will echo for decades to come. Oh, I didn't even realize. Above that, it says Paris, 1939. And now this next part is Montana, 1983. So I guess the second part isn't as modern as I thought it was going to be. It says, Lily is a lonely teenage... Wait, what? I think that's supposed to say teenager, but it just says teenage. So Lily is a lonely teenage desperate to escape small-town Montana. She grows close to her neighbor, Odile, discovering they share the same love of language, the same longings. But as Lily uncovers more about Odile's mysterious past, she discovers a dark secret, closely guarded and long hidden. Based on the true Second World War story of the heroic librarians at the American Library in Paris, this is an unforgettable novel of romance, friendship, family, and of heroism found in the quietest of places. So apparently there's a romance aspect of this as well, which I didn't realize. So that's usually not my thing either. So on one hand, I'm like really interested in the subject matter of this book, but on the other hand, it's a genre I'm not usually into. So we'll see how it goes for me, because I'm not too sure about that. Pretty much I'll be starting to read this over a weekend where we're not really going to be home. It's a friend's birthday, and there's a group of us that are pretty much going out to the countryside to an Airbnb, and are just gonna kind of chill, spend the weekend together, play board games, and so I figured I would try to read this during the downtime. So I guess let's get started on that adventure.
In the south of France, when we go up the Pyrenees to go skiing or wherever, like it's just that. Just that. New friends!
Oh,
Friends!
puppies! He's like, nope, I'm done already. They're so big!
They're tiny.
He's so big!
Yeah, he's a big boy. He's a golden retriever with something.
Yeah, we're not sure because we
Whoa.
fantastic.
Joyeux
anniversaire!
My hair is still all messed up. So today is Friday, but I have no idea what day of May it is. I didn't film yesterday, or at least any part of me talking, and I didn't read it all, and I've only read a chapter today. So, however, there's a corgi right here. So that's interesting. And there's a big pupper too. So I don't really know how much reading I'm actually gonna get done, but there's a ton of fun stuff happening, so that's cool. Most of the group actually just left to go do wine tasting, and those of us that are left are gonna do our D&D Curse of Strahd campaign, so that's gonna be fun. So today is Monday, May 10th, so it's been a little while. Yeah, that was a long weekend of a lot of fun and not much reading. So I only got to about 60 pages throughout the weekend. I just kind of read a few chapters here and there, and that was about it. As you could see from the previous parts of this video, I did a ton of other things with friends, so that was really fun, and we just got back yesterday, so I am exhausted today. Like, my whole body just hurts, and I'm just kind of catching up on reading today. So I'm on page 100 now, and it's getting better, but I don't really know how to feel about this. I knew from the description that it was going to be 2 points of view, but then it added a third. And what chapter am I on? Okay, so I'm on chapter 10, and only like 2 or 3 of those chapters were from Lily's point of view. Then there was one from someone named Margaret, which I was not expecting that. And then all the rest were Odile. And so it's kind of like, what? And the Lily ones were in the beginning, so for like the past 50 plus pages, we haven't had anything about Lily, and I've kind of forgotten her by now. So the focus of this book, I don't really know what it is yet. The old timeline is definitely my favorite, and the current one, I just really don't care. Lily's like 12, so I thought she was going to be like at least 16, and I definitely cannot relate to a 12-year-old. So it's just a little in that regards. And the one Margaret point of view is also in 1939, and it just didn't really seem necessary. So I do kind of wish this just stuck to one point of view so far, because it just feels kind of scattered, and I'm a lot more invested in Odile's point of view and what's happening with her than anything else in this so far. And also in the beginning, it just felt I wasn't really keen on the writing, but now that I'm getting more into it, I am enjoying it quite a lot. So far, most of it has just been about Odile and working at the library, so there's been a lot of descriptions about the library itself, the books she reads, quotes from things, and how she interacts with the subscribers at the library, which for me is interesting to read about since that's the library I go to. However, I think at this time it was in a different spot than it is today. Because today it's right by the Eiffel Tower. You can see it, the Eiffel Tower, from the outside of the building. So I'm gonna look up where it originated. Okay, I see that it was initially located at 10 Rue de... oh god. Rue de l'Élysée. Holy shit. Élysée. Rue de Élysée. I'm just gonna say it that way, because I can't say it with the L in front of it. It was established in 1920, so in 1939 it would have been around for 19 years. But I need to see where this was actually in relation to where it is now. Oh! Its original place was right by the embassy of the US, actually. So yeah, it's actually not too far from where it was originally. Originally it was right by like the Élysée Palace. So it's pretty much between the palace and the embassy of the US. So that's kind of interesting. I don't see what year it moved though, but I'm assuming it was probably in this original position in this book. So the descriptions and everything, even though it was a different building, I still kind of have in my head the library that I'm familiar with, and it's a place that I really like, and it's where I get most of the books I read and everything. So just that connection, I think, is really helping my enjoyment of this. But I'm gonna try and read a bit more today. Today's just kind of like a catch-up day for me in regards to a few things, and I also just kind of don't want to push myself too hard because my body's hurting and I know it's gonna take a while for me to recover. So yeah. Ori. So today is Tuesday, but I keep thinking it's Wednesday. And luckily yesterday I was able to get quite a lot of reading done, and Ori is just completely taking up the whole screen now. Good boy. Oh. See, he can lay down and be good. But I think he farted and now it really stinks. Disgusting. So I am halfway in this. I only have one hand now since the other one is holding Ori. And the dual perspective is completely unneeded. It hasn't really added anything at all to the book for me. And in the 100 plus pages I read yesterday, there was only one, maybe two chapters of Lily. And the last chapter I read from her perspective, it covered 2 years, so she's 14 or 15 now or something like that. And it just had nothing to do with anything. Odile is an old woman in the modern timeline, obviously, and Lily's kind of formed a bond with her, but the story told from her perspective, it doesn't include much of Odile. It's just kind of little tiny bits and pieces. It's more of Odile making a cameo than anything. And so since I don't care about Lily at all, it's just pointless and it's just a waste, and it just feels like clutter in this book. And I had said before how there was one chapter from Margaret's point of view. There hasn't been any more of that. And now there was randomly a chapter from the directress of the library from her point of view, and it added a bit more than Margaret's one chapter, but it just seems kind of odd to just have these one-off chapters of these other people's points of view, especially when it maybe gives us a little bit more background of the people, but I'd rather see them from Odile's point of view and her learning more about them herself, which is happening anyway. So it's just kind of we're being told the same things twice. So I haven't been a fan of that. However, I really enjoy Odile's story. There's just kind of this buildup of anxiety of the war coming closer and closer to Paris, and you can feel the buildup of that tension and anxiety with the characters themselves, which I really like. One thing though is always when books take place in a country that isn't normally English speaking, there's always words from the native language like thrown in here and there. And so that's kind of expected in this book. However, it's done a lot. And I live in France and I've been here for 3 years now. So it doesn't really bother me because I know what the words mean and stuff. But there's been some phrases and sentences where I did have to ask my husband kind of how I would pronounce it or what other meaning there was, because the way that I knew the meaning of the word didn't really fit with the sentence. And there's some words I've run into where I'm just like, the normal person isn't gonna know what this says. So I thought that was kind of an interesting choice by the author, because I couldn't imagine like having to continually put down a book to look up what these French words mean. So far, I'm enjoying the main story, but there's all these kind of like extras that have been added in that I just personally don't feel are needed and more take away from the story than add to it. So I'm curious to see what role like Lily's gonna play in the second half of the story, because like I'm halfway through and she hasn't done anything. I assume she is included to kind of show the death of Odile, perhaps, but I don't know. It's just, So we'll see what happens. And here is Ori. You laying on me now. He was purring. He's so cute. Ori. Ori. Oh, there he is. Oh, now here's a chinchilla. So it's nighttime now, and I've been reading for a bit, and I'm on chapter 29, page 276, and a lot is going on. Pretty much the beginning of this book is before the war really becomes intense and starts. It's 1939, but it's like just before everything goes into full-out war. And where I just left off is like the middle of 1942. So Paris is occupied, Pearl Harbor has just happened, and people have either like fled or people are being arrested now. And apparently there's someone at the library who's a traitor, because someone's like writing letters pointing out like someone who's Jewish, someone who is like English or American and who's considered the enemy. I have my suspicions on who it is, so we'll see if I'm right on that. It's interesting to read how they've dealt with these situations. Like, since Paris is an occupied city, everything is rationed. You have to like register yourself, you have to stand in lines for anything. It's now getting to the point where people are like running out of like stockings. The women didn't have stockings. Things like butter and cream are like considered fancy and things like that. So it's been really like informative seeing the transformation from before the war to now during the war. And reading this is actually like, it's such a fast-paced book, it feels like. I can see how for some it might be slow, but like I'm so interested in what's happening with the characters and the city itself that I just keep going, and it feels really quick. Which is also why when there's like a Lily chapter, it just feels so out of place. Like the flow of the Odile chapters is really good, and then all of a sudden it'll be like, we just have to stop and go to someone we don't care about. I might end up finishing this tomorrow or within the next 2 days. I do actually have to go to the library tomorrow, so it's funny. I'm going to be going to the library that it's talking about in here to return some books, because one of them is going to be on hold for someone, so I have to return that. But I'm enjoying this a lot more than I expected, especially with how the beginning started. I read the first few chapters and I was just like, oh man, I don't think I'm gonna like this. But it's really surprising me. There was just another Margaret chapter, but it's actually pretty relevant, so I'll let this one slide. I'm not sure if I'm gonna read a bit more tonight or stop here as it's 10 p.m. But if not, I'll see you tomorrow. I completely forgot to film before changing into pajamas for the night, so sun's going down and it is what it is. I woke up this morning thinking it was Tuesday, but it's actually Wednesday. And I have just about 100 pages left of this, so I've gotten through this pretty well in the past few days. And what chapter number am I on? 38, wow, okay. So in the last 100 pages I've read, I think there's been one Lily chapter. So as of right now, I'm 100% convinced the Lily chapters are 100% useless, and I could even do without the other random chapters from different points of view. It just feels like the author wanted to put in as much information and context of what was happening as possible. And honestly, I think everything from just Odile's point of view would have been just fine. Time's really starting to speed up. Right away from the Lily chapters, it was always 2 years happening in just a few pages. And now we're kind of picking up pace in the older timeline too. Each chapter tells the month and the year, and that's incredibly helpful because it seems I think it was from 41 to 42. It kind of jumped into the next year, and I was like, oh, okay, we're already in that year. All right. And we're kind of skipping a few months at a time. So we're getting further and further into the war. I think the chapter I'm on is 43. Yeah, November 1943. And my thing is falling backwards. So we're seeing the escalation of the occupation of Paris and how people are being arrested. People are being kicked out of their homes in favor of tattletales and snitches taking over the apartment. And Odile is kind of dealing with the fact that her dad, who's the police commissioner, is kind of having to carry out these horrendous orders of arresting Jewish people and those that are English or American, and pretty much anyone who is considered an enemy of Germany. And her fiance, who's also on the police force, is having to do this as well. And so she's kind of just come to the realization of everything that's been happening because they kind of tried to shield her from it. So there's some kind of emotional moments for her. And I think personally it's interesting to think about and kind of realize what people went through. And since Paris was occupied so early, they don't really quite understand what's happening outside of the city, with the internment camps and the concentration camps and everything. They don't really have that news because everything is being censored. And so they're just kind of hearing rumors here and there of things, and they don't know what's fact, what's fiction, and the extent of what is actually happening. And that's something I didn't really know. And there's some other bits in here of things that I didn't realize happened. Apparently a bit after Dunkirk, I think it was, there were British ships that actually attacked French ones and killed 1,000 sailors and stuff. The British ships told the French ships that if they didn't turn back, they would fire on them, and the French ships refused to turn around, and so the British ships sunk them. And it's just oh shit, even the Allies were turning on each other and stuff, and that's something I didn't know happened. It's just all these details that I definitely wasn't taught about, but granted, I grew up in America, so my learning of the war was that it didn't really start till America jumped in. So I really don't know much of what happened before Pearl Harbor. Or at least I didn't. I've definitely been a lot more educated since living in France. So yeah, I got about 100 pages left to go. I'm definitely interested to see how this ends. There's definitely this side plot of oh, maybe Odile isn't this precious, innocent person as we think she is, but honestly, I think it's just a fake out and not a really well done one at that. And it's kind of another reason why I think the Lily chapters are a bit pointless, but we'll see, I guess. So the chapter I just finished was holy shit dark. So Paris has been liberated, it's no longer occupied, and the French are very, very angry with anyone who associated with Germans. And there's some French women that had babies with Germans and stuff, and were with them, and it's basically like an angry mob, and what they're doing is fucking horrifying. Like, I really wasn't expecting this to take like such a terrifying turn, so oh my god. I don't know if they're gonna talk about anything like that anymore, but wow, that just hit me really hard. I am extremely tired. I already switched into my pajamas for the evening because I completely forgot to film before doing that, and my brain is just all over the place because today is a holiday here in France, and we spent most of the day at a friend's house playing D&D, so I'm just tired, and I can tell by my eyes that I am. And I don't know how this is gonna go because my thoughts are just mush. So last night, I see Rolling Ori. I did manage to finish this finally, yay. This has been just a chaotic vlog. So at the very end, there's kind of a few author's notes. The one talks about the characters, and oh, okay, hi, all right, please get your butt out of my face. And I'm really glad it was included because the author talks about how the character names, like, these were real people. I just assumed that the names would be made up. It's historical fiction. And no, like, Miss Reader was a real person. Everyone was a real person except for Odile, it seems like. And maybe a few others. And for me, that really made the book feel even more like alive and connected and everything. So that was really cool to realize at the end, and I really wish that was in the front because I would have liked to have known that before reading the book. And then there's also a little bit about like the history of the library, but it's stuff that I already know pretty much. So in the end, I'm giving this a 4 out of 5. There was actually quite a few things. Well, there's a few big things that I didn't really like in this book, and that mainly has to do with the dual perspective, but I've talked about it so much. One thing that I do really enjoy about this book, though, is the characters feel real. They have their flaws. You can feel how the stress of this occupation of Paris is affecting them, how their bodies are changing, their mentality is changing, how they will snap at others quicker, and things happen and they say things that they don't mean, and things like that. And all of that combined just shows how people make mistakes. People aren't perfect. There aren't Mary Sues in this book. Like, that is, you're not going to see that at all. And I really liked that, and it just felt really refreshing to read something that just felt so real and raw. And here comes Ori. Come on. Come on, big baby. Oh, biggie baby. You so big baby. See if he'll lay down here. Oh, good boy. Good boy. Yeah, he cute boy. He cute boy. So, the ending of this, I did not like. It felt really out of place. It was extremely odd, quick, and sudden. It's just, all of a sudden Odile's doing one thing and is so happy, and then there's like a reveal, and then it's just like, oh my god, now she's doing this, the end. What the fuck? Like, not my thing. It was strange. And so the last few chapters, they just felt odd and out of place, and it ends with a Lily chapter. So I just, the ending felt a bit blah to me, and so the ending just felt blah to me and kind of unfulfilling. but the whole story of Odile and like the build up with the war and everything I thought was really well done, and I really enjoyed those parts of this book, which is why I ended up giving it a 4. But it could have potentially been a 5-star book, but the issues I had with it were just pretty big issues, so like each thing just kind of took half a star down, bringing it to 4. I'm getting so distracted by Ori. Look at him. Look at this baby. Oh, he's... Can you not? Don't bite the book, though. Don't bite the book, though. Yeah, let's see if I can... Oh, there he is. Oh, there he is. Oh my goodness. He really likes biting my hair. There's the baby. Yes. Oh, look at that. Look at that. There's the baby. Sorry, I could literally just film him forever and just... He can be the star of the vlog. Are you gonna read the book now, Ori? Yeah, are you gonna read now? He's silly. Oh my god, no, I can't even get this to go straight. Good enough. So I'm really glad I read this in the end. I've been wanting to read it since I learned about it. It's just... I know I have a bias in favor of this book, and I have such a connection with it because it takes place where I live, because it takes place where I check out my books. I just went to the library yesterday, so like it's just it's wild to me. And so reading about all these places, like all the street names that I recognized, the suburbs and arrondissements and everything that I recognize, that I've walked through, that I've been to, it just gives me such a deeper connection with the book and with the characters themselves, and I just really liked that. And for this being historical fiction, I was so worried about this genre, and just coming back, really enjoying the book, I'm just happy. It's like, it comforts my soul a bit. So I definitely would recommend this to people who are interested in Paris, who are interested in libraries in general. A lot of this book takes place at the library. So if you don't really like reading about books, then you're not gonna have a good time. But just learning about the history, the people, that time period, everything like that, it was just nice. Even though, like, I mean, the subject of war isn't cozy, but this book kind of felt cozy. There were some chapters with some dark things happening, and it kind of caught me off guard because it was near the end, and all of a sudden it's just like, this is happening, holy fucking shit. And that was kind of a wake-up call of like, yeah, this has to do with war fucking sucks. So pretty much World War II, libraries in Paris. So, and also the French language, because there are a lot of French words in here. And finally, that is all for this. At least I really hope it is, because I feel like I've been filming this forever, and I kind of have. Like, what even is today? Today's Thursday. And Thursday is the fucking what? The 13th, and I started feeling, like a week ago. Oh my god. No, not even. I started filming it on fucking Wednesday. Yeah. But I don't even think I started reading it till like Friday or something like that. So yeah, this has been an adventure. I'm not sure if it's a fun adventure, but it's been something. But thank you for hanging out with me as always. And if you did happen to have some fun here, please like and subscribe, as that helps me out a lot. And until next time, au revoir, and wow, I just completely messed it up. Bonne journée, and au revoir.